What's up, guys? This is Roseate Hemorrhage out of Lazy, making a quick video to show off the gear and traits that I use on my sword and dagger thief. Rather keep this a short video, simply showcasing all that, and keep most of the bullshit out of this video. So let's just get to it. As you can see here inside of the hero panel, I have very little condition damage, actually 0, and this is nothing but a power and crit build. As you can see with the defensive stats that I have very high toughness and higher vitality. That gives my health about 17,000, which for a thief that's actually pretty good. I have a little bit of a philosophy over gearing, that you should gear for the stats you want and you should trade for the way you wish to play. I ran with a full soldier's armor set with knight, or well, it's not knight, it's called emerald orb, but they give knight stats for my armor itself, with a knight, well, it was supposed to be knight backpack, but they don't have it, so it's actually soldiers, but knight jewelry with 2 berserker rings. My weapons themselves are berserker as well, so that gives my, the stats that I need a significant boost. 2,800 armor is very good for WvW, with it's actually 50% for hitting from behind, but we'll get to that in a second, a 43% crit chance. Pretty simple gear setup, nothing too flamboyant about it, but I like to keep most of the stats that I want sectioned off, or for a very specific reason. This gives me a very high amount of durability with enough health to survive conditions and survive most standard spikes. Now for traits, again, I run a dagger and sword build. I switch out the primary weapon whenever I want to. Right now I happen to have dagger equipped. But I'm a very moody person, and I don't like doing the same thing over and over, so my build is more centric to using both of those whenever I want to switch. Ran 0 for deadly, 20, 30, 20, 0 for the rest of the stats. I'm not going to get into the minors because you can read them for yourselves, but for critical strikes, ran for practice tolerance, 5% precision into vitality. Seeing as this is a critical strike build for heavy spikes, that's obviously going to give a nice bit of survivability. And number 3, the side strike with that extra 7% crit chance from behind, which brings me to a 50% crit chance. Shadow, we're going with, not that one, the standard 2 initiative whenever you stealth, but I prefer having cloaked and shadow going blind whenever you're going to stealth as well. This gives a huge burst in survivability and should never ever be overlooked. Now, a lot of people for their Grandmaster trait do not go for anything other than either a Venom Share or a Shadow's Rejuvenation, which is a very nice trait, especially if you boost healing power up a little bit. But I've gone with Hidden Thief. Stealing gives 2 seconds of stealth. This is a huge trait for myself, and it gives a boost to Infused with Shadows every time I use Steal without immediately coming out of it. Gives me 2 initiative immediately back. This means that I do not entirely rely on Cloak and Dagger, which is a 6 initiative ability, and gives an alternative to maintaining high initiative regen. Now into acrobatics, I've gone with Vigorous Recovery, gain vigor upon healing. Now this works directly with Feline Grace. Dodging returns some of the endurance used. That is 3 dodges, with the vigor every time I use a heal. I prefer using Withdraw because it removes Immobilize, Cripple, and Chilled, which are easily the 3 deadliest conditions in the game, especially for WvW. Back into the traits, the last one is simply Descent of Shadows. Honestly, I will switch this one out depending on where I am running around. Usually Power of Inertia is where that ends up. I dodge a lot, so I can get a good deal of might stacked up. That also works with Hidden Assassin, since that gives you 2 might, I believe, for 15 seconds every time you go into stealth. This allows me to run, these traits allow me to run usually about 8 stacks of might, depending on what I'm doing. But again, I'll switch that out depending on what the scenery around me looks like. Any other points that I want to bring up is Opportunist. This is a huge trait for having a good deal of crit. This is a secondary, is definitely a minor trait, but it is not something that should be overlooked. A 1 second cooldown on a 20% chance on crit to recover initiative is very, very nice. That goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with shortbow. Not so much with a backstab, but it also works with shortbow, and also surprisingly with sword. Now, the other skills that I generally run with, Withdraw is a good one that I love Withdraw. I'll switch it out with Hide in Shadows if I really need the extra stealth, but Withdraw is really the skill that I try to run with. I think I just tabbed out. Anyways, I have Roll of Initiative and Shadow Step on the bar right now, but honestly, these 2 skills I generally don't have on the bar. I have them on right now because I need the stun break. The only skill that I really consider mandatory for a sword or backstab build is Signet of Shadows. Normally, I'm not one for running simply passives and going from there, but a 25% increase to movement speed and a blind on use is, well, frankly, that's pretty damn huge. Especially when movement is the name of the game for this, for Guild Wars 2. You can usually run with I usually run with the Shadow Refuge or Blinding Powder and Shadow Step. Again, I happen to have Initiative on there simply because it's probably one of the most underrated skills in the game. It's a little harder to use because it's a 60-second cooldown, but then again, Shadow Step also has a 50-second cooldown. I try not to get stuck into using specific skills over others because that only closes the way you can play and you don't adapt to the situations that's needed. But honestly, Dagger Storm and Thieves Guild are the only elites you need as well. I plan on making a couple other videos for the builds I use, like the Pistol Dagger condition build that I run, or the Dagger pistol build, and I'll be posting those and linking for everybody else in Lazy and for anybody else that wishes to look at them. But that's, again, this is a pretty short video, covered basically everything that I wanted. So for all you thieves out here who watch this, this is a great build that I like to run. It doesn't use Mug, and it's more based on survivability over the spike damage, even though Mug is fantastic. I just prefer having more utility. The same thing with the other videos that I'm going to post up there eventually. They will be focusing more on utility and survivability, especially with post-stealth, this post-stealth nerf and the removal of culling. Well, have a good one, guys.